Welcome to the Business of Creativity from Reno, Nevada.
Is
Welcome.
that a test?
That was that's rough. Let's try it again. Hey Charles, welcome to the Business of Creativity from Reno, Nevada. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Pretty good. Just busy with work.
You got some skiing in last weekend, huh?
I did a little. It's been rough. Not a lot of snow. This week we're supposed to get about 4 feet, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, a friend of mine went snowboarding yesterday, and he said it was pretty good up there yesterday too.
Excellent. Yeah, I can't wait to get up. I'm the only idiot though that bought a sports car in a mountain town. So I'm very limited on the days I can actually get up to the mountain. But yeah, so
Well, I'm the other idiot that will not be anywhere near that snow. Where I grew up in Arizona, I had way too much of it, man. People don't think that there's snow in Arizona. A lot of people just think it's desert. Just like a lot of people think Nevada is just desert.
I'm one of those people, I guess. That's funny. I didn't know. That's funny.
Hey, Travis, I got a question for you. I have my logo, and I had some friends asking me about my branding, and I was kind of confused. I couldn't explain to them exactly the difference between my branding and my logo, and maybe you can help me out with that.
Oh yeah, that's a really common question I get, and a lot of people actually mix up the idea of a logo and a brand. It's funny because I'm going through a summer camp rebranding right now, and they kind of just see it as a facelift, and really what to dive into it deeper, brand is a gut feeling for your customer, and it's not something you create necessarily. It's something that each one of your customers creates for themselves, and they understand about you. So,
Well, let me ask you something.
oh yeah.
Can they look at my brand, my logo, and get that feeling just from looking at my logo? Is that part of it?
Oh, that's such a good question. So your the way we kind of call it in the biz is your logo is your identity. That's a visual marker. Your logo, your website, your Facebook page, all that stuff is the visual identity. But what your brand really is the emotional aspect to your customers. So when you look at your logo, which is really nice, whoever your graphic designer was, really did the next level on that. The logo is a marker for people to know exactly where they are. But that's not your brand. The brand is the gut feeling that they get. And really, really good brands, they'll be very holistic about it. A brand kind of represents, I'll use an example of a hotel. A brand represents a experience that you have, more than just the logo, more than just the way the website looks. It's the overall experience. A lot of people like to call branding a promise. That's both correct and incorrect at the same time. So with that example of you going to a hotel, there's a few things that you do before you even enter the hotel. You need to book your room with them. You might call them for a reservation or something, or to make sure your reservation's still booked. And it's how they answer the phone. It's how they talk to you. It's are they curt? Are they kind? Are they friendly? Are they unwelcoming? Maybe they're really high end and they treat you like garbage. People are into that. But the idea is it's a holistic experience. All the way into your hotel room, when you're in the bathroom, some of the best hotels I've seen, they actually put little phrases or quotes or things like that directly on their packaging. They have their logo in there, and they'll make sure that's very clear that it's them. but it's those little touches, those little flourishes that they add to kind of create that holistic experience.
So it's kind of like a mind game. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, number one, my great logo that somebody created for me, but I'm also thinking about, the castle, the Disneyland castle, that logo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about, I'm a Dallas Cowboy football fan. I don't want to upset anybody, but it's a star.
Uh-huh.
It's just a star, and stars are all over the place in different logos, and you see a star. But when you see a star with that helmet, you think about the Dallas Cowboys, and it's a feeling you get. In my case, it's a happy feeling, a proud feeling.
Yep.
Other people, it's a hateful feeling because they can't stand the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
So it's a mind game. You're saying the logo basically is something that you physically see.
Yep.
Branding is something that logo makes you feel.
Yep. Yeah. So if you hear about somebody rebranding and they're using it correctly, what they're actually doing is a ground up exploration into what their brand could be and how they're serving their customers. And the tool we use to facilitate that is what's called a brand strategy meeting. And that goes over a bunch of different aspects. First, it starts with our customers. So we create 3 customer profiles, and we dive into their biography. So we create a biography of that customer. We dive into their problems in their life, and then we figure out what that customer wants. We figure out what that customer needs, and then we figure out what we can do to super serve their needs within your brand. And that alone is very useful because now we understand the customer that we're trying to serve. Next, we go into your attributes. And for that, it's kind of a fun little tool that we use to create a bunch of different keywords. And then we kind of place all that into a brand positioning statement. Gives you a nice paragraph that you can have your employees and your customers, your employees and everybody involved in your organization, they can sign on to that. I have customers that actually have their employees initial that when they start working for them. The idea is when they sign on to that is that they understand how to treat their customers, because it covers everything. It covers the culture of that company in that brand. It covers the customer and what types of customers they're looking for. It covers the voice. So how do you communicate with them? Are you bright and fun, or are you morose and sad? I don't think that'd be a very successful brand. But the idea is you're kind of looking for your unique edge, and then you want to stay consistent. And if you do that, then your customers will feel a sense of belonging. And one of my favorite stories about this is Coca-Cola years ago created New Coke.
Tomorrow, Coca-Cola Company will tell a thirsty world it's putting a smoother, sweeter taste into the most instantly recognizable bottle in the world.
This has got to be the boldest consumer products move of any kind, of any stripe.
Their competitor, Pepsi, created the Pepsi Challenge.
This is the taste. This is the test. Pepsi versus Coke, the Pepsi Challenge. Pepsi. And all across America, more people pick Pepsi. Time after time after time.
Pepsi Cola.
Which later was debunked, but the concept was Pepsi gave their customers more sugar, and people would choose that during the Pepsi Challenge. And so Coke thought, oh, we need to add more sugar to it. So they changed their product.
I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real. I'd like to teach the world what the world wants in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
And what ended up happening is people became outraged, and Coke really quickly realized that Coca-Cola doesn't actually belong to them anymore.
But America's emotional ties to Coca-Cola would be strained as never before during 80 fateful days in 1985. New Coke was launched in a confident blaze of publicity. But public reaction was immediate and negative.
All of the taste tests said people preferred the taste of this new product to the century-old product. What they hadn't factored in was the huge emotional attachment there was to this brand.
It really belongs to their people, and that's a mark of a really successful brand. You have a brand and you have people who feel a sense of ownership and belonging to it. You're very successful because all of those people then become walking, talking billboards for your branding. And that can go a long, long way. Everybody knows that word of mouth advertising is the most powerful. So if you have developed a really strong brand to the point where people know the consistency of it, and they know that if they send a friend to you to do work with you, and you're going to provide that exact same experience that they received, then they will feel very comfortable sending their friends to you and stuff. So that's why branding is really important. That's kind of the secret sauce, and that's why major companies spend tens of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, trying to develop their brand. For us, it's a lot cheaper, of course. We have packages that start around $2,000 and then go up, to about $25,000. Right now is our highest package for branding, and those can be very involved. But that's kind of the idea is we create a identity that a customer can feel belonging to, and if you do it right, that customer will feel like they're at home, and they'll actually start kind of considering that brand as something part of their life. And an example of that is my wife is really into the Peloton bike, and they are just on top of their branding 100%. They produce motivational videos, they produce all this extra content, and it always reminds me of that old saying in marketing, which is, people aren't buying drills, they're buying the hole in the wall. And with Peloton, you're not buying an exercise bike, you're buying a way of life, you're buying a set of motivational points that really kind of pull you up and get you really excited about working out and being on that bike every day. It's worked for me. I love it. So that's the power of really good branding. I hope that answered your question.
You mentioned companies that rebrand.
Uh-huh.
So that has nothing to do with the logo. The logo can stay the same and you can rebrand, right?
Yes, that's such a good question, because I think a lot of people, when they hear rebranding, they immediately think that's going to be a whole new logo. You could do a rebranding without touching the logo. The logo might be perfect. And so you might want to keep it there. If you're doing a rebranding, you might really be just looking to see if you're serving your customers correctly, and if there are other things you can offer. I have an example of this where I had a client come to us for a website, and at the time we were offering a version of brand strategy for free. It was a little form. It was really involved, and it's not something we offer anymore. But at the time, it was really neat because I could give him a bunch of suggestions for his business, because immediately when he filled out the forms and I read through them, I could see exactly what his customers needed. And he was a nursery. He ran a nursery. And what he had was a lot of contractors that would go in there. And what they needed consistently, all three of his profiles, funny enough, all three of them wanted access to some sort of employment tool to hire people on the spot. Because a lot of these gardening companies, they might get a contract and they just need to hire some people, short term or something like that. And so what I recommended was, on his website, we need a bulletin board kind of situation where people could post on there job opportunities or looking for work in that nursery realm. And he turned me down for that at that time, but I planted the seed. And a year later, he actually came back to us and requested that we build that whole piece into his website. So that way we could super serve his customers in that way. He could super serve his customers in that way. And so those are the tiny things that you do that, you know, he's there to sell trees, but what he was actually providing was a holistic experience. So his clients and his contractors could go into his business and get everything that they need to serve their customers in one convenient place. And so that's the idea of branding, really, is just figuring out what it is you can offer. So yeah, super good question on that.
You know, when we did my brand strategy, which we'll get into one of these days.
Oh yeah, that'll be a big one.
What it does is it focuses you in on who you want to be your customers. With photography, like we talked about last week, there's so many different avenues. You could do boudoir, you could do a newborn, you could do all that kind of stuff. But when we started working with my brand strategy, I realized who and what I wanted to focus on. The colors of my logo, the mountain in my logo. All of that stuff came into play, and it gives you direction so you're not wandering all over the place.
Yep. Yeah, that direction is so handy, I think, for it's I always say this is kind of behind the scenes, but for graphic designers, it's really, really, really nice having that brand strategy information, knowing exactly who you're designing the site for, what kinds of call to actions their customers are looking for, or what are the pain points of their customers. So when we're actually building a website, we're kind of thinking about what are their problems and how you can solve those problems. There's another marketer I worked with, and he used to say this phrase that I love, which is we need to aggravate their issues. And basically what that means is we need to find their problem, and we need to point out how that problem is going to get worse until you purchase or seek the services of the person, the person on the site that they're at. And so that's kind of the concept there. It's just aggravating the issue, getting them in there. And if you don't understand your client's issues, and you're just building a website and you're designing a logo and even creating the name for your brand, brand naming is so important. A lot of people will just kind of choose something. To this day, I have brand new businesses being set up, and they come to me and they're doing A1 auto towing or A1 muffler repair shop or, A1 limo services or something. And the reason they do that is they want it to be at the top of the telephone book. And that information is so stuck in people's heads. We're no longer in the telephone book age anymore. So naming your company A1 whatever doesn't give you that advantage anymore. You might be better served by thinking about your customers' needs and wants and creating a brand around that. Rather than A1 limousine services, you could say, luxurious limousines or something that really ties into what it is that people want. What's the hole that people are looking for? Because they're not actually trying to buy a drill. Just like with the limousine, they don't actually want the car. They want that look. They want that style. They want that flourish. When they're out, they want that fairy tale of them standing in the window and waving at the city, in the limo. That's what people are looking for, I think, when they're looking at that. So that's so important.
So with the branding, I obviously you'll know it's working when your bottom line is going up, your profit is going up. Is there any other signs other than that obvious one to look at, Travis, to know if your branding is working?
Oh yes, that's a really good question, because you'll know your branding is working when your key customers, the customers that you created the profiles out of, when those people reach out to you and say it's really connecting and resonating. That happened with the dentist I know. We did an entire brand for him, and all of a sudden people could kind of start understanding. What was funny about him is he kind of understood what he wanted to do. He wanted the log cabin kind of feel, the cabin in the woods kind of feeling. We're in Tahoe, so it was the cabin next to Lake Tahoe, you know, that kind of warm, comfortable feeling. And so when we went through his brand, we touched on so many different points about what the atmosphere should be like when we go into his office, how the phone should be answered, all those things. A few suggestions I gave him, and we created 3 different profiles, but the one that landed and stuck, ironically, was very close to the way he had everything kind of set up to begin with, which was amazing. So we had a high-tech version where we could go after his customers who were looking for more of that techie stuff. And with those, we were offering charging, and maybe we had tablets rather than just magazines on the table. He wanted the log cabin look, though. And so that's the profile that won out. So what we did was we actually created ideas like lighting scented candles that had that kind of pine smell, you know. So when you walked into the office, all of a sudden you're smelling these aromas of pine trees or nature or things like that. And when you do that, you can actually associate, I forget, I'm totally going to screw this up, but there's a higher association in your brain between smells and emotion and feelings and memories than there is with any other sense. And so if we tap into that by using a scented candle, people who are going in to get a filling or a cavity or get a tooth pulled or something, we can actually calm them down by evoking those feelings of you know, nature and comfort and being out in the wilderness. And so that was an idea, was to kind of have that feeling. Another idea was to have some music in the background that was more nature oriented, you know, kind of some ambient, you know, birds chirping, you know, maybe some water rustling or something, you know, something like that. And then later in the experience, when the customer would be on the actual seat, you know, staring up in the seat, and they're staring up at the ceiling, the idea was to actually put a TV above them. And that TV could actually have maybe nature documentaries or some sort of peaceful scene, you know, to kind of keep that theme going, you know, keep that peace and calm and all that stuff going in there. Because the number one thing we do with our dentists is we never, ever, ever show the tools on the website. We don't want people to associate those scary visions of you go to stock photo sites and you type in dentist, and all of a sudden you're going to see all these tools laid out. And I always think of those murder mystery movies or whatever, you know, where they have all those tools of death right there.
Yeah, and those tools, man. I don't know if they've evolved over my lifetime. You just see those sadistic looking torture tools. and they're all still that silver and they're just gonna gag you, and I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so it's so important. And with that dentist, you know, he took a few of the themes I was talking about, and he left a bunch of them, and really it's always up to the client. But if you really, really, really want to super serve your customers, you kind of follow, or not kind of, you follow what your customers are looking for, what they need. And if you do that correctly, then you could immediately start pulling in gobs of other customers who are looking for that kind of experience. And they will actually go out and advertise for you and tell other people about this amazing experience that they have every time they go to this dentist office, you know, how they feel and all that.
Hey, you know, tying this in a little bit with photography, Travis, I was asking somebody the other day about their shoot, and we were just talking about it. And, you know, going in, she was nervous, and I couldn't tell she was that nervous, but she was just saying she was so nervous. And I said, so how did you feel during the shoot? I had a great time. It was fun. I was relaxed. You made me laugh, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, that's what you want. When you look at those images, you want to be reminded of how you felt when we took those photos. And I see exactly what you're saying. And she will tell somebody, hopefully, she will tell somebody about how she felt while we were out there doing the photo shoot.
Yep.
And then that person will want to experience that, because being on the other side of the camera, we're always on this side of the camera. Being on the other side of the camera can be intimidating, scary. You could be nervous, worried about how you look and all that. But if you feel relaxed and you have a good time, then you will tell somebody, and people will want to experience that good time.
And that's your brand. That what you were describing there is your unique brand. That's what you offer to your customers, and that's what sets you apart from. I was going to say Sears. I don't think they're around. Those. I don't even know what to call them. Those retail photography companies that just kind of go through and you're just another number in their system. They just push the button. They're not there to make you laugh or have that conversation. With my photography business, I like to always have music. That's part of my brand. I think music is really important. I know you're the same, Charles. You have music during your shoots, and you just kind of have this atmosphere of comfort and fun. And I'm here making mistakes. I'm just a silly guy with a camera. I'll do silly things, ridiculous things, just to get that natural smile, to break them out of that ice. Because photographers, I think you need to be a natural icebreaker right away, because you have about 30 minutes to get that customer feeling really, really comfortable, and your brand is so important for that. If your website was set up that way, and when they talk to you on the phone to set up the shoot, and they could kind of feel your fun feeling and all that. Charles, you have this really cool thing on your phone where you have music playing while I'm waiting. So I call you up, you have music playing, and that's part of your personal brand, man. Like you have this setup where I call you and I'm immediately immersed in music. And so then when we start talking, I'm already, kind of comfortable. So that's kind of the idea with your business is creating that holistic feeling, and you could tie in things like aromas, lighting some candles. It might get a little weird, if you're one-on-one with a client. You have a bunch of candles.
What's interesting, Travis, is that you said how you do the goofy stuff to try to relax people.
Yep.
I may be doing goofy stuff, but I don't plan on doing it. It might just come out that way.
Yeah.
But my point is, everybody has their own personality to get the same end result.
Yep.
And that's to get your client to relax. Mm-hmm. Because the worst thing in the world is somebody that's tense, and it shows in your images. So you can have different types of branding to get to the same result.
Yep.
To the bottom line result. And in photography, your brand is different than my brand.
Yep.
But it ties into the whole experience that the people experience.
Yep.
And that's why it's so good to do that brand strategy, because it brings out who you are.
Yep.
And then it brings out who you're trying to target.
Yep.
And I just think it's a fascinating thing, and we'll get into that discussion one of these days soon, because it's detailed, but it is fun. And the end result, when we did mine, I was wondering, I said, what in the heck, what are we doing? Because you had me do this exercise, that exercise.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I had a logo that I'm so happy. I love my logo. I love the colors. I love the layout. I love my logo. And I see now why we did all those steps to get to that logo.
Yep. Yeah.
And then the branding right now, word of mouth, as we go on with this podcast and in YouTube, we're going to show my website. We're going to work to build that website up to where I want it.
Yep.
But right now, my branding is how my clients feel when they're with me. And that's just a cool thing. And the word of mouth is there, and the repeat customers. That's another way you can know if your branding is working, because people come back.
Yep. Yeah, and it kind of stepping back to the music piece. I was kind of thinking, I did a shoot with you recently where we were photographing, kind of country western kind of theme. We were out on a ranch and photographing horses, and a really nice lady, business owner herself, and her daughter. Was it her daughter? I think it was her daughter. Yeah, and super fun, super nice. Her brand is probably more the country western stuff. If you wanted to attract more of those people, you could create a logo wrapped around that identity, her identity. You could use the American flag motif if you want. You could use the country western stuff. You could use rough paper, if you were sending out a mailer. You could use the rope and lasso and all that stuff to really, really tie into those people. Where if you shoot musicians, they're more looking for something more modern. And so you might use a different typeset, you might have different paper, you definitely have different music during the shoot, and you're approaching them completely differently. And so that's the idea is with photography especially, and this is something I always see, this is the thing I did, this is a mistake I did, which was I wanted to shoot everything. I did everything. I had everything on my website. And in terms of branding, I was not focused on one aspect or one type of person. And that is a huge mistake. The number one thing I think any photographer, any creative creating an identity or a brand is to think about what exactly those 3 clients that you create, those 3 profiles you create, what can you do to super serve them, and only offer those on your website, only offer those in your mailers. Stay consistent and super serve those 3 people. And if you do that and they feel that consistency and they know that your whole thing is built around their identity, then they're going to feel really comfortable about sending you to other people, friends and family, things like that. So such a powerful thing. I'm really happy we're talking about branding. It's a great topic, I think.
I can tell you get so excited, you just start pulling your cable, everything just falls apart on you. You love this so much.
Exactly. I'm very into it.
And this is just, it's so easy to, okay, I want to have a business. I want to start a business and just jump into it without taking this because this is kind of like laying out, you're going on a trip, and this is just kind of like thinking about which direction you're going to go. And if you don't get this branding done first, then you'll just be scattered all over the place.
Yep.
And you won't target who you want to target. You won't be bringing in the clients you want to bring in. You won't be working with the people you want to work with. And this is just an important step a lot of people don't do. And I'm glad we're talking about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so powerful. I have a hard time explaining the power of branding to a company or an individual. But as soon as it clicks in their head, they start to realize, everything that they've been doing wrong throughout their business and how they've been trying to contact the wrong type of people, and why they're attracting the wrong types of customers. Not all customers that I work with and deal with really fit our company, and that could come down to a branding issue that we have, that we're not really attracting the right people. And that could all cover everything from pricing to the call to actions you use on your website to the types of advertising sources you go to. If you're going to Facebook, you might be dealing with a different type of people than if you're on LinkedIn or if you're on Instagram. So you kind of got to think about, and that's really what branding and brand strategy is all about, is thinking about that entire universe, paying somebody to go through and think about everything. It's like my wife comes from an Arabic family, and she always has a saying, let the baker bake the bread. Don't do the work yourself. Let a professional come in and do it for you. And that's why I recommend hiring a branding professional to really dive into that.
I love that. How the baker break the bread.
Yep.
Baker bake the bread. I get that one. You lost me a few minutes ago when you were talking about the drill and the hole in the wall. I just want to let you know that right now.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard it first, but the concept is whenever you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, I'm not going to be brand specific here, but whenever you go to either or Ace, whatever, you go into one of those stores, you're not there for the actual part. You're there to solve the problem. So if
now I got it.
Yeah,
I got it now.
Yeah, if you have a leaky sink, and you need to swap a pipe out or something, you're going in there to buy maybe some ABS solution, whatever that stuff is, and maybe some extra pipe and all that. You're not actually buying the parts. You're buying the solution. You're buying the ability to fix everything, and that's what that kind of means in that realm, I guess. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got you now. Thanks for clearing that up.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, man, Travis, thank you for diving into your love of branding.
Oh,
for
thanks.
me.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's a lot clearer to me, even though we've already done the brand strategy. It's just a lot clearer that now that we took the time just to talk about it. And next time when we get together, we'll pursue other avenues of the business of creativity, and we'll see what happens. It's good talking to you, man, and you have a great week. Is there anything you want to say as far as wrapping up this show?
Oh man, I'll have a great week. Pretty busy with work and things like that, but overall, I love branding. Really happy we could talk about this. And do you have any creative things happening this week in your world?
I have some editing to do.
As we all do.
I have two different people asking me to come up with 10 photos. And that is so hard to do, to come up with 10 photos. Yeah, you can come up with 10 photos.
Yeah.
But you'll look at 9 and you'll think, oh man, there's those 9 over there. Now, which one do I pick from that 9 to make 10?
Yeah.
And so I have to do that, and then just my normal job too. So it's going to be a busy week coming up.
Yeah, it's good to stay busy, I guess, is the old idea.
It is, and it's also good to have that problem where you're looking for 10 images from stuff that you love doing. Photography is just a joy to me. When I'm doing that, I'm not working. It relaxes me, especially when I'm doing the photo part. The other part can be tedious, the editing and all that kind of stuff.
It's the creation we love, right? Yeah.
Oh man, hey, I got some ideas to share with you too. Some ideas for some photo shoots we got to talk about.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Love to hear them.
All right, buddy. You have a great week, and we'll get together next week.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll talk to you next week. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.